Hi again. Here we are to continue working on our slideshow. And, so far we've got our slides working. We kind of refactored the code in the last video where we refactored this function that we had passed in to set interval right into these three functions down here. So we've got next slide, previous slide, and show slide. So now what we need to do is we need to make some buttons, but we're in a really good place to make them work because the next button can just call next slide, and the previous button can call previous slide, and then they're going to be working. So how are we going to do that? Let's take a quick look at the markup again. Now in the markup we decided to use an anchor tag along with the class name ms next button and ms previous button. Okay, so we'll have to find these guys and apply some code to them, right? So I've got my inner image here and my images here, and then I've got this delay and transition stuff there. Why don't we put or get a reference to those two buttons here? So I'm gonna make two variables, right? Let's go next button. Oops, wait, let's do this. Let's say document. Actually, you know what? This button will be inside of slides, the slides object, right? So remember, because we did query selector slides inner to get the inner slides from this parent element, right? So we'll do the same strategy here. So we'll say query selector, and there really should only be one of these. So ms next button, pardon me, something like that, right? And then we'll get the previous button. And so now here's the thing, right? This is pretty good as long as we have this element. So this element may not exist, right? So if I look at my markup, the first slideshow has these two buttons, but the second slideshow doesn't have them. Okay, so what we'll need to do is we'll need to just check in code, right? We'll need to say like, hey, if this is some value that is good or is something, right, then we can apply an event listener to it. But if it's some value like null or undefined, then we can't apply an event listener to it. Otherwise we'll see an error message, right? So let's do this. Let's say, hey, if, and then we'll say next button. If it does not equal null, right? In that case, oh wait, I said next slide. Let's do next button. There we go, right? Then we'll say next button dot add event listener, and the event we're listening for is a click, and the callback will be a function. So we'll type a function in here. I'll just type the whole thing, function parentheses curly brackets, and then event listeners always take an event object, so I'll put the E here. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll call next slide. Oops, wait. Why does the code hints are not helping me today? Let's say next slide is the function that we want to call. There we go, right? Okay. And then let's do the same with the previous button. So I'll just type the whole syntax for the if statement. I'll say previous button equals, or does not equal null. So if this is not null, then it's probably good. And then we'll say, in that case, we can add a listener. So I'll say add event listener, and the listener I'm listening for is a click. And then we'll add a function, and we'll put the E here. And then we'll call our previous slide method. This will give us a chance to test this one. This is one that we haven't tested yet. Okay. And then let's look at this very closely because we still have like one more thing to take care of. So those anchor tags are usually used to take us to some place, right? I put the hashtag in here, so actually that would take us to the top of the page or take us to a particular ID on the page, but I don't want it to actually go anywhere, right? All I want to do is just get a click on this thing. So we could actually make this just a div and style it, and then it wouldn't have that behavior. But if it is an anchor tag, we can also prevent the default behavior and stop it from scrolling or going to some other page by using e.prevent default. So I'm going to say e.prevent default, and then I'll put that down here too on the previous button. Okay, so let's save that, and then we'll take a look, right? So what do we got here? Let me go get my slides there, and I'll click my button. Oh shit, my button isn't working. Oh, maybe I have an error because it's not sliding either. Ha. Let's see. Oh yeah, maybe I got an error. Let's see. Oh, unexpected token, curly brackets, calls, expected one argument. So I got some problem, right? Let's see. What does that say? JS line 1. Okay. Well, let's see. Let's debug that, right? Let's get our code here. Oh, weird. You know what? When I typed that thing and VS Code auto-completed for me, it added this import run in new context to the top of the page. That was really frustrating. Okay, let's give it a try now. Second try, right? Oh, no errors that time. Let's click the button here. Oh wait, my button isn't working. Shoot. Okay, so we solved one problem. Let's see. Let's check here. I don't have any errors that I can see. So let's get out console log, right? So I'm kind of curious. Maybe this failed because I missed. Oh, you know what? I misspelled it, right? I put MS next button, but this is a class name, so it should have the dot, right? So actually, this was null, and it wasn't doing any of the code in here, right? So we'll put the dot in here, and then we'll debug, do a little more debugging. Hopefully not, right? We'll click this one. Oh shit, I still have another problem. Let's see. And I got another error here. What do I have here? Oh wait, I'm getting an error when I click the button. It says next slide dot add event listener is not a function. Oh, because I put next slide and it was supposed to be next button. I'm having trouble here getting this thing right. Sorry about that. Hopefully you guys did it right the first time. So I'll make that next button and then save it, and let's try it one more time and see if I can, if third time is the charm, so to speak. Oh, there. So it's kind of working. Yeah, and I can go back a slide. I can go to my next slide here. I'll wait till let it go, and then I'll go back 2 slides, right? Okay. So that's working pretty good. There you go. Hopefully that's useful to you. Sorry, I screwed up a couple times there, but that's okay. We solved it, right? One note here, okay? If you watch the slides, the time between the slides is like, it's a couple seconds, but if I click this, then almost immediately another, like if I wait and then almost immediately I click, the slide will slide again, and that's kind of weird. So I feel like if you click the next button, what should happen is the timer should reset. So that way when you go to the top of a slide, the next slide that comes along should be, you know, the full time, like delay time before the next, you know, the slide after that comes up. So in other words, like if it takes 3 seconds between slides, if I waited 2 seconds here and click the button, it should wait 3 seconds before transitioning again after I've clicked the button. So again, let me re-explain it this way, right? If you click one of these buttons, it should start the timer again and then wait the full delay time before doing another transition, okay? So you can try that on your own. Let's make that a stretch challenge there. And let me kind of give you a hint on how this is going to work, right? So set interval actually returns a value to you, okay? And it's really just a number. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Okay, let's call it interval. How about that, right? Okay, so if I call it, it gives me a reference to an interval. To clear the interval, you'll say clear interval, and you'll give it a reference to the interval like this. Okay, and that'll clear all intervals. So if I run the code now, I would have added an interval and then removed it, and so the slides will only work when you click the buttons now. Okay, let's give that a try, right? So if I go to my browser here and I wait, and I'm waiting, so the slide's not going to go, but if I click the button, it'll just go, right? So the goal for you would be to not clear the interval here, right? But instead clear the interval inside of the next and previous slide. Or no, wait, actually you do it, actually not there, actually we'd probably do it up here inside the button click. So before you called next slide, right, you would clear the interval and then add a new interval so it started all over again. Okay, so you'd have to clear it. If you add the interval more than once, JavaScript's perfectly happy to run this code, you know, more often, or run as many intervals as you want. So if I add this code more than once, it'll start incrementing the slides faster than you expect, right? So you need to clear the interval first. Let's actually pseudocode that, right? So clear the interval and then add a new interval. Okay? And you might think of another solution, but I think that this would be the solution, right? You clear it, add a new one, and then call next slide. Okay? So anyway, you can give that a try on your own, and then maybe in the next video we'll try and tackle the indicators. Okay? Thanks for watching.